Hello everyone, welcome back to Piston Cup Productions, and in this live stream we're going to be ranking the entire Cars Diecast collection based off of their posters, and we're going to be going year by year from 2006 all the way to 2024. And I'm here featured with two friends of mine, World of Cars Entertainment and Danica Blue. So without further ado, let's get started. Are you guys looking forward to this?
I'm annoyed.
I'm looking forward to this a lot. I am annoyed too, but I'm looking on the bright side of things.
Yeah, so long story short, we tried doing this as a live stream, but it failed. So we're going to just do it as a normal video. So hopefully we don't have delays this way. There's just no way. It's not possible. Let's get to it. Starting with 2006, the start of it all, the start of the franchise. They didn't know how big it was going to get, but they still released a decent amount, including main characters like McQueen, Sheriff, Doc, King, Wingo, Sally, Mater, Lizzie, Sarge, Chick, Fillmore, and a couple variants. I would say it's an A tier. What about you guys?
I personally think it's an A tier.
I think it's an A tier too because it offered as much as you would expect from the very first year. I'm honestly glad they didn't go overboard the first year because why would you when you don't really know how popular they would be? So it's really respectable overall. And plus, I think the factory seal set also kind of gives that little boost, in my opinion.
Yes. Moving on to 2007.
Okay, this might be my first sort of debatable one because it's definitely not below A tier, but I would put an argument forward of it being S tier.
I automatically put it in S tier. I even named S tier Supercharged.
Okay.
2007, yeah.
This
It's very
really felt like
nostalgic.
the actual year that kickstarted everything.
Oh yeah, like it got all the bangers that were needed, like Bob, Daryl, brand new Mater, Radiator Springs, Lightning McQueen.
We're going to see him for the next 15 years throughout these posters, and you're just going to notice how stupid these scalpers sound.
Oh yeah.
I know, the start of it all. And plus they had the driving cars as well. They had the movie moments, which
Fabulous
most of the
Hornet.
2-packs had new releases in it. And obviously, let's not forget like one of the best parts, the Walmart 8.
Moving on to 2008. 2008, what are your thoughts on that?
Initial Judgment, I want to put it like B tier.
I want to put
Maybe.
it in like.
Maybe.
I want to put
What's
it.
your thoughts?
I want to put it in A tier, but also kind of S tier, because like we got Fred, we got Van, we got like that's when we got like
No, I
a lot
wouldn't.
that's when we got like a lot of race cars and pit crew and Doc with headset.
I
Like, we
wouldn't-
got like a lot of the race team cars.
I wouldn't put it like S tier just because I know there's certain years to come that are like the best of the best, and like this year was good. I just wouldn't put it on the same level as other years that we're gonna get to. I think A. I'll take A, but
I would
I
say
can't
B.
really- I don't think
I
S
say
is good for
B
this, no.
because looking at the poster, it's just a bunch of paint job variants.
That's what
it's like-
my initial judgment was B. I think B tier is respectable for it.
I would
I mean,
say B also.
For reference, because we're going to get to this later, this was the first year they introduced chases. There was only 2, which was McQueen and Fred with bumper stickers. And they actually had Chase on the packaging. Like it said that in 5 letters, Chase, for everyone to know.
Yeah.
Those are the first year's deluxes were introduced.
That's true. I mean, they also had the, this is also the first year for Kmart stuff, when they had like 5 of the background races for the first time.
And the first year they did Comic-Con stuff. I don't know if that counts to this ranking, but that's why I think it
when you put it
deserves
that
to be
way-
an A, just because it does a lot of stuff.
Okay,
True.
I will
Okay.
say this. I think we can always revisit some of these if you'd like. Maybe
Yeah.
like towards the end as a
I
recap.
still like this in A, just because like it's. Still,
I would not. Just don't put it in S tier. Like I think that's too
Yeah.
far.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
fair.
2009.
A
Yeah.
really good year in my opinion, because this was also the year that introduced the storytellers. I think it kind of depends on your retrospective of what you deem to be good new releases. Because I'm going through the singles
Yeah,
right now.
The other
Most of
ones-
the new releases was in the form of like pitties, like a bunch of like the sponsors
There-
pitties and whatnot. They had the impound tuners and the McQueen that were all chases. Again, I'm gonna say this again. It says chase on the box.
Yeah.
And they even had like chase packaging, which was kind of weird, but kind of made sense, I guess, because they did it for cameo cars. Okay, here's my judgment. if you're just gonna base it off of Racerama on its own, I probably would say like B. But taking into context everything, including the storytellers and like other stuff that was that year,
Yeah.
I would put it in A.
Off to 2010 then,
I'm
which
gonna
was
say it's right
final
after that.
lap.
2010 S tier in
I'm
isolation.
going to put this in A, but I'm going to explain why. There was a lot of like why moments. Like the fact that like I think there was like 10 new cars that were exclusive to lenticulars didn't help. And the fact that a lot of them were chases as well.
Probably, arguably top 3 of all time for me. So if it's not an S tier, I can't imagine what would be an S tier. You know, and like you gotta look on the bright side. There's so many good things. Like the final lap collection. I think there might be a grand total of maybe 8 cars that were re-releases. Everything else were brand new releases.
That is true. It's really.
And you had like you had the team sets. You had a bunch of new haulers. They completed all the Piston Cup races with rubber tires, as well.
Okay,
That's when they completed all those.
I think it's
And
more,
not only that, but they came out with race damage mood springs.
Yeah, arguably the greatest retail release of all time.
Okay, Cars 2.
The start of the downfall for the franchise. Not the Diecast and toys though. That was at an all-time high.
It's definitely A tier. Definitely A.
Bro,
No,
2011
definitely
is S
no.
tier. What are you waffling about?
It's the fact that
I
there
was gonna say B tier.
2011.
Yeah.
Bro, that's an easy S tier.
Okay.
Nah, it is
Okay.
not an S tier,
Do you-
bro. I don't know. Like I'm again thinking about characters and what they did for that year, because I'm comparing the amount of characters that came out for 2 compared to 3, and I'm just happier with the lineup in 3 than 2. That's my hot take. So I'm just seeing
But,
like
yeah.
collector events at the very top to say like rubber tires and whatnot, and like then at the bottom you have the actual characters, the main characters. Then you have a couple 2-packs and a couple deluxes, and that's it. Like, you know, finding these at Target was something else. It was amazing, but I wouldn't put it any higher than A.
I'd have to disagree with that one. Like, I feel like 2011's and I wouldn't say it's the great for like merchandising. Obviously, it was like its peak. It was its prime, basically. But I still think the releases in general, because it was a whole new main line, and at least with this one, they didn't start a subline before like they did for Cars 3 in the future when we get to that. But everything literally was more or less like a new release in the Cars 2 mainline. Did they?
I don't know.
Besides like a couple of multi-packs that like had Sally or like some other townies in it here and there, I say like 95, no pun intended, % of the releases were new.
Hey, you know what, Jacob?
2012.
You're right. After enlightening me with your words about how almost everything, like 95% of it, was new, you're right. That just made it a lot more.
Like just
I
by
guess,
It's a high
basing
A.
it off of like quality of the releases, I can't knock the fact that majority of the things were new. Like you could
Very
have been
true.
collecting
Very true.
since 2010, have everything, walk into 2011, and you almost needed everything.
A
That's
right
true.
below.
2012, Jacob. You have a lot to say about this one, don't you?
As much as I'm not trying to count distribution wise for some of these years, like this year needs to be talked about because of the distribution. But it wasn't even just that. Like the releases in general were just kind of meh. They had some good ones. They just
Like Hudson Hornet Piston.
they didn't uphold a lot of weight to them, and plus it was another year of just Cars 2 releases. Like they didn't do like Cars 1 and 2 until 2013. So 2012 was like a really filler. Like
They canceled a lot of cars here too in this year.
True. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, because they canceled it because of the distribution too. Like it was absolutely like just
Okay.
garbage. But
I don't think it's like.
I think this might be the only year that does this. I'll see, but in my opinion, if any year was gonna be in D tier, it would be 2012.
I'm gonna have
Okay.
to stick with C tier for this
I
one.
was gonna
for
say
now.
C only because there are some benefits, like the fact that this was our first time we ever got super chases.
I like the 2-packs they did this year around, and I like some of the other like little small variants. Like there's little
Yeah,
things
the
sprinkled in there
2-packs were
that makes
nice.
you like it. Like the Hudson Hornet McQueen is nice. Stuff like Taco Truck Mater, given how rare he is, that was really cool. Same with the McQueen and Francesco
The Pope
2-packs.
and the Pope Mobile is also cool.
2013, all things considered, I feel like might be one of the more underrated years.
I
Overall,
love the fact that they had a McQueen and Mater category for them this year.
Yeah.
bro, the
I
fact
love
that
that.
the Mater series as well had like a bunch of new releases. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Race Team Mater was the only new one, but like the other five are like actual new releases.
Yes, and it's just cool to see now that they integrated Cars 1 into it, so it wasn't just Cars 2 anymore.
Yeah, and also this is the year when the Radiator Springs Classics actually took full force. As much as they like introduced them in like tail end of 2012, like 2013 is when it really came into life. But you can
Yeah.
look at all the series as well. This was the very first year that they did series, and it wasn't just a whole general main line, which for the time that it lasted, I kind of appreciated. It made each release feel a little bit more collectible in the sense that they were numbered as well.
Yeah.
Yes, the collectability was just at its peak here because how cool is it to be like, oh, do I have all the Rusty's racing team? Do I have all the Italian scene ones? Do I have all the airport? Do I have all the Maters, all the McQueens, all the wheel wells? Like superior. I mean, I'm gonna say
I
A
have.
tier.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
thinking that. But let's go to 2014.
So they introduced the All in All Blowout, which had a bunch of canceled releases, as we know. They introduced Paris Tour. They did race fans. They did tuners again, but this time they did they did the flame variants again. So this is their second year running. They introduced Piston Cup, but this time with a little bit more racing action, but mostly in 2-pack form. But they did do a lot of singles too because 2013 mainly just had besides McQueen, Chicken the King, it only had Nitroid and RPM as normal racers, and also Sputter Stop. Everyone else was just officials and background spokespeople and whatnot, and
But
helicopters
there's
and
like
blimps and
there's
whatnot.
This was the year when they truly introduced like Cars Tunes again as like
Yeah.
Walmart exclusives. And not only that, they even had like Monster Truck Mater stuff. So they technically had like a deluxe Cars Tune line as well.
and they also had like the 500 and a half as well that year.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I will
would say
say
this was a
I put it in A.
high
I,
B.
no.
I
Here's my. I'll say this. I'm still gonna put it in B and not as high as A for one main reason. They had some really good releases. My only big complaint, it was super duper Cars 2 heavy. It was good releases, but it was so heavy and it was kind of imbalanced. 2013, I think, did a good job of balancing Cars 1 and Cars 2. 2014, it was super imbalanced to Cars 2 because Cars 1 only had like 3 new releases. So for that reason only, and a couple other things, I think B is respectable. It's not as bad as C.
yeah, you
I
kind of
think it's-
yeah. You see, the thing is
I
that
said B as well.
yeah,
I say B.
2015,
Give this an S tier candidate.
I'm thinking it too. Ooh, wait,
Like,
yeah,
I'm looking
I'm
through.
looking.
balance is pretty good.
No, I'm gonna say a couple of releases in general that just is a main reason too why this should be S tier. Like just some of the incredible releases. You had Doug RM and Larry Camper. You had all the Circus Cars as Super Chases. You had the convention exclusive of Big Al. Like those alone, on top of other things that I could get into for this year,
That's
made it
true.
incredible. They finally completed McQueen's like townie pit crew. The balance between Cars 1 and Cars 2 this year, I think, was done to perfection.
Yeah,
Yeah, S tier.
Yeah, I honestly, this year is S tier for me. I really liked it.
2016.
also S
Ooh.
tier.
Oh, okay. My initial judgment was gonna be A tier, but I mean, we can debate it. I'm gonna go through this one too, real quick.
Okay, can
The
I?
only thing that messed this up was the packaging with that stupid Daredevil
Oh,
garage.
okay,
thing.
but that's packaging. We don't include packaging designs.
Right. We'll talk about packaging later, but diecast wise, you had Bessie.
5 new cars from the Rusty's 10 series.
That was really good. You had a couple new fans as well.
Yeah, you had
There's that.
four. You had 4 new fans.
The McQueen and Mater 2-pack without the wheels.
This was the last year that they actually did new lemons. I know, like
Yeah.
the year after, they did some variations, but like in terms of just straight up new characters that are lemons, like this is the last year they did it.
This is a make or break. Either you were into cars at this time or you were out of it already.
Overall, after looking for it, yeah, I'll take S. Let's go to 27.
Also, let's not forget this is the 10th anniversary of Cars.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. That's true.
I'll
They
put
did
it
a good balance of. Well, they did more Cars 1 than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'll
like
give it
that.
S tier. I'll go to S tier.
Steer.
2017, like the spring line, is kind of really hard to judge. I'm not gonna lie. I think for the sake that it was a spring line, I think I'll give it a safe C.
Oh, I was
at
gonna
best.
say like a low B, only because
Definitely not B.
Okay, fine.
Nah, man, not B.
Okay.
No.
Nah, that's
I
a
was gonna,
C. That's a
I was
C.
gonna give them a
That's a C.
benefit of the doubt, saying they did a good job for like what they were able to release before Cars 3.
Nah,
but-
nah.
okay.
Listen, like there was just like way too many re-releases. Like I know they planned,
The shelves were so empty too.
but like there's just way too many re-releases, and they did it on purpose because they knew that
Yeah.
a whole new like movie was coming out, so they didn't want to try and pump out a lot of new stuff. Their
That's-
downfall
Yeah.
was the fact that they were doing a bunch of re-releases and thought it was wise to put some new releases in later cases. If you just had them all in the get-go in like the first 4 cases, I think you could have avoided a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, this it's not like bad in standards wise. I just think because it was short, it was only for the spring period. It's a average C. Cars 3. I am gonna judge the Cars 3 mainline side by side to Cars 2's mainline because they're both like the sequels that were the next big thing, right? So you got to put them side by side and compare how they did with the marketing and the merchandising and the actual releases.
I would say Cars 3 was a solid high B. I say that because we had a lot of new stuff, kind of like when Cars 2 came out, like everything was new, unless you had obviously the Townies that were just re-releases and Mini and Van and all that, right? But it just sucked that when this movie came out, after a couple months, it was the same characters on the shelf. Sarge, McQueen, Jackson. It's kind of like what happened with Cars 2 with just Mater, Finn, Francesco, right? Like, that's unavoidable. But the later last cases of this year that had, like, what was it? Fabulous McQueen, right? Was he in this? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, he was, I believe.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
he got released
Fabulous
in like
McQueen.
summer, I remember.
Yeah, Lil Torquey, Pistons, all those, like Morgan Martin, Super Chase, all of those were just really cool in my opinion. Stu Scattershield, although he was extremely hard to find, the Jeff Corvette from Cars 3.
I think
there were some pretty good ones.
I think the best eras of this was like May 1st. There was a good summer period, and then there was like a fall to winter, November period where a lot of stuff was good.
Yeah.
Overall, kind of got stale a little bit here and there, but it's not a bad.
We did get the worst Super Chase in existence.
It's not an outstanding. It's not like a blow it out the park mainline, but it's not a bad mainline. Overall, I would put Cars 3 at B probably.
I understand Cars 3 is very racing heavy, but the fact that like half of the mainline is just stock cars, like more than half of this year's just.
Can you complain?
Like,
can you really complain though when they did all the Demolition Derby cars except for Fair Game?
I mean, yeah, but at least they're unique. Like, they're very unique looking and model wise. All the stock cars are just all repaints. Like, and like I think it's just missing some cool variation of background characters. Like,
okay, I can kind of agree with that. You're kind of right because it's essentially Piston Cup racers, especially from this era, you were just paying basically for paint job variants.
Yeah,
reporters for sure.
And like maybe like Bob and Daryl would be cool to have. You know, just some various different stuff. I know we got.
That's why the next year is even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good addition to next year. 2018 was really hyped up when it came because everyone just saw it as this was the first year we're getting stuff from 3 different movies. Kind of weird to look at from the World of Cars forum because 2018 and 19 submerged on their website.
I know. Okay, I think we do need to clarify the difference though because the only stuff that came out in 2018 were Rusty's Racing Center, World Grand Prix Pitties, only a couple, and that was kind of it, I think.
And 2019 is when they really hit the nail on like Cars 3.
Yeah, like all of the Cotterpin cars, all of the Heyday Racers, like all of the Florida 500 cars, all that was 2019. So I
definitely would say 2019 is better than 2018.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
I'd say like really high up there to A tier at least.
2020.
I despise 2020 with a passion.
I mean,
okay. Look, 2020. Let me give my thoughts real quick. Pandemic year and everything. I kind of understand what happened. At the same time, I understand they planned this in advance.
Yeah, I don't think COVID affected this really at all. The only
thing,
part
of me.
you gotta also know there was a lot of stuff that got canceled for what it was worth. There was a decent amount, and most of it was due to like the circumstances.
Well,
Yeah,
yes
it's
and
more
yes and
variance than nothing here because you had a whole silver collection, you had a funny flashbacks and a scavenger hunt, and they're all just normal characters in different paint jobs. They were cool,
Like,
don't get me wrong, but a lot of people didn't buy them.
this year just felt very safe, like just very basic. Didn't really give us anything
yeah, I think my biggest
outstandingly
complaint
new.
about this year was the fact that most of the new releases was like metallic cars and like the silver ones.
Cars. It felt.
I feel like it
Yeah.
was a little too heavy on those. I think I
It
would give
definitely
it.
was.
I think if it didn't have the valid excuse of like the COVID year, the pandemic, whatnot, I would maybe even say this is a D. But because of the conditions, I can kind of understand it. But overall, I gotta judge it as it is. I'll probably give it a C average.
The only memorable new cars that year are like Ray Riverham and Laura Spinwell and
Cake McQueen.
Cupcake McQueen.
Cupcake McQueen, good one, yeah.
Yeah, he has a good one. And
Super Chase McQueen.
The last chase / super chase, whatever chase that has been in existence. 2020 was the last time. Beyond that, nothing has ever been a chase or a super chase. End of discussion.
Next year, 2021.
oh,
Yeah, let's go. 2021. Let's do it.
Okay, I put it in
2021.
I put it.
All right.
Okay, low C. 2021 S tier. Next year. Next list.
I love that packaging, dude, for 2021. And
The
it was
packaging
Dude, like,
is
that
just peak.
actually brought.
Oh
Yes,
it
dude.
I'm not gonna lie, man.
It
like,
just had a warm comfort, if that makes sense. Like it's just.
Oh, it was comforting, nostalgic, and it looked modern and clean.
Yeah, it just. Yeah, it was
It
just.
You
felt
had
like
the
a
re-release.
like
You had
sense of
re-releases
room.
integrated into the main line from Christmas. You had the Golden McQueen. You had the Racing Reds. You had Halloween cars. You had Easter cars. You had Thomasville Racers. You had
so
the
many
Cotter
news
Pin
racers.
Kitties.
They finished
They
the next
finally
gens.
did Saludos Amigos Ramon.
Yeah, they did. The band pity.
Louise
like you
Nash
said.
with the Flames.
Oh, they finished
They
the Legends of
finished
Flames.
the Hot Rod Legends, yeah. Dude, yeah, honestly.
So many good ones.
Really,
This
like
might, I think this might be S tier, yeah. It does feel like this was the final lap of Cars 3.
yeah.
This is how it felt like.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, like now there's like just a couple downsides, and it's like why did they do Steve Russell with Flames? Or
Oh,
like
that was one of my worst releases of all time. But
or
my
like,
biggest downside of this year was the 2-packs were kind of meh overall. But
yeah,
I
the
can
two
look
packs
past
were
it,
kind of man, but like it was
Yeah.
still a great year.
Beyond the road year. Absolute caca.
Okay, I'm gonna say this right off the bat. Not the tier, but the actual good stuff of 2022 was actually really incredible. But the bad stuff of 2022 was like down bad, horrendous. Like, why am I still here?
Okay, so what was good for 2022? I'm willing to hear you out.
Okay.
Bertha Batter's Wagon.
Damaged King.
No. Some of the new release, it was mainly the new stuff from Cars 1 and 2 specifically. That, like, it was actually good. And if it had more backup to it, then I think it'd be a better year. But you had the uncancellation of Birth of Butterswag, which I know doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but it was like 13 years in the making. You finally got Damage the King. You got an accurate sized Fred in there. You actually had, like, background Cars 2 characters from the Radiator Springs segment, which they never delved into before that. You had a bunch
True.
of you had a couple side things from Cars 3 too. You had a random reporter, which was the first time that it wasn't Shannon Spokes or that super chase that they did. They still integrated Halloween cars into the main line. You had your Easter buggy and the Christmas McQueen
and Christmas,
Mo.
yeah, and Halloween.
There was a couple of good next gens too. Flip Dover's first re-release, that was great. George New won the
He
league.
looked different too.
Do we
A pretty
count?
big, yeah, he was hella
re-re-
different.
I'm questioning if we should count re-releases because we never talked about re-releases in any of the other poster years.
No,
Okay,
like,
that's kind of well.
worth mentioning.
I think
mean,
okay. The King, Damage King is definitely worth mentioning just because they made him different. Like
yeah, and also
ways,
they
like-
did A couple of notable Cars 1 new releases too. Track to a Tire with Mouth from a pretty funny scene. They actually did a decent amount of Cars with McQueen variations too. You had the Spin Out one and Bug Mouth. You did Finish Line. I like the integration of some nostalgic McQueen variations.
Yeah.
They Bling McQueen as well. Not forget him.
I feel like you're
The Lexus look
hyping
terrible, though.
I feel like you're hyping this up though, because all the new cars that were not Cars on the Road, I think there's like only like 7.
Yeah,
for a Cars on the Road year, it was terrible.
I'm just trying to give it like as much good light as I can until I bring it back down to earth, which I'm going to do right now. This year was overall not good enough, in my opinion, and especially when you consider the fact that the first case didn't drop until like February. We had to wait five singles cases for a new release, and that new release was a variation.
Jay with headset, and it was actually.
They didn't even label him right.
Yeah, so, they didn't label him right. Actually, no, we're forgetting the first new release, made with working tow hook.
See, when that's your first new release, like that tells the whole story. I'm sorry, but
yeah, agreed.
I'm sorry. I'm putting it in D. I'm putting it in D. I don't care about the new cars. Like, they're great. They're fun.
I would say high D, low C.
Yeah, I would agree. But if I have to pick between C or D, I mean,
if we're gonna talk about the new on the road cars, which I mean came out in September. That's when the show came out, so it makes sense. But like the fact that it was McQueen, which got replaced in 2023 with a better variant. Sterling with a white and zebra kind of paint job.
And plus, for what it was worth, I don't think the on-the-road marketing was as good as it could have been.
Yeah,
so
it was terrible.
Yeah, honestly, this is probably one of the worst years ever, in my opinion. Yeah. It's definitely down there. I would put it like C at best, but I wouldn't complain if you put it in D.
I'm saying D. I'm sorry. It's just compared to after 2021 as well. Like,
yeah, it doesn't help that it
got our first D tier.
All right,
so
this is an actually interesting year to talk about.
2023. I'm gonna give my thoughts. This is a year where a bunch of new collectors came into the picture. You had Facebook parents. You had more kids. You had a lot of teenagers. You had the Disney 100th anniversary. You had Cruising McQueen labeled as a chase, but not as bad as this year that we'll get to in just a bit with Radiator Springs McQueen. This year had a lot of international exclusives, quote unquote, that later eventually made its way here in one way or another, one shape or form. But if you wanted a lot of these releases from the get-go, it was somewhat hard to track them down. It was on the road heavy, 100%. But we saw the reintroduction of Cars tunes. We had some really cool ones like the Dinosaurs, Bella Cadavra. Cars 1 was just not that great. We had Misty. We just mixed in a lot. Cars 1, Cars 2, Cars 3, on the road, Cars tunes, and Disney 100. All composed into this. It was a lot to juggle, and it kind of shows. But overall, I think it offered a decent amount of variety, but it was, again, very Cars on the road heavy. But
yeah,
its defense, it did it better than last year.
The thing with that is I don't mind that it was on the road heavy. I actually kind of agreed with that, because it was the first full year after the show's debut.
Yeah.
You had to get Cars on the Road's attention, so I understand that. I didn't mind that pretty much all the new releases besides Breaker Box was like on the road, but I think we're gonna get into this discussion with 2024. But 2023, what it did really good, despite on the road heavy, the releases from 1 and 2 especially, some 3 as well, like they actually held up its weight from re-releases.
And like there's some things that like are huge standouts. Like I'm okay with this being on the road heavy because like I like to I know it on the road was in 2022, but I personally like to think that this is just technically the first year of on the road. It just feels like
this is because what they did in 2023 is what 2022 should have done for on the road.
Yeah, but it's hard. They couldn't.
But it's not. Really. I don't feel like it was really Mattel's fault because they dropped the show in September. They didn't want to like put stuff out too much before then.
Yeah, like it's kind of hard to. I don't blame them all for that, but like they handled Cars 2 stuff well with Return of like Lemons, Part of me wants to say B tier.
No, honestly, I would put it in A tier in my opinion.
I could say low A. I'm okay with low A.
I would say high B.
See, that's the thing. It's either
I'm saying
high
high
B.
B. I'm saying high B because I'm thinking right now of the distribution it had.
What other 2 years so far in MB, just so I can maybe get a better idea?
Wait, what?
Cars 3 Premiere and 2015. No,
No, that's
We did not put
that
2015 in
that's
B.
four. I think that's 14. Yeah, that's 14.
14. Yes, 2014 and 17.
Okay, you know what? I think that might be fair then. I wouldn't complain if it's an A, but I think high B, low A, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
2024.
now we have arrived to this year, 2024.
We saved
Again.
the worst for last.
Oh yeah, extremely on the road heavy again. It's getting kind of annoying at this point, but to be fair, they are coming out with some cool on the road releases this year, like Cave Mater, Space Creature McQueen, Margaret.
I think the quantity of new on the road releases is fine for being the second full year. But my problem is, once again, there's just on the road releases. If you're not counting GRC and you're not counting the Takuma Crew Chief, which is a very one off in my opinion. But I'm not a fan of the fact that it's still on the road heavy. Like I said, 1 year is okay, but anything more than that I think is just too much, and it's kind of redundant. I'm not blaming the releases. It's just there's not diversity to back it up this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if next year we go into it and there's again more on the road heaviness, I'm out.
Yeah, bro, that you can't do that. Like, not for 3 years. They didn't even do that for any of the movies. How are you gonna do that for a TV show?
I know.
Yeah.
But see that I know we don't want to talk about re-releases, but like it has to be mentioned here. Like, if you compare it to 2023, you had a good re-releases to back it up. What good releases do you have to back up like on the road this year? There is a total of 6 releases from Cars 2. 6. It doesn't even hit double digits. If you combine Cars 2 and Cars 3, it doesn't even hit the number 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Cars 3 and Cars 2 are terrible this year.
And mind you, I actually checked this when the poster came out. This is the lowest quantity of Cars 3 releases we've ever had, and it's the lowest quantity of Cars 2 releases we ever had. So they broke 2 awful records this year.
Yep. Usually there's an average of 100 singles or more. This is like an average of like 80 something.
And plus, we didn't mention it last year. We probably should have. But 2023 introduced the Cars tunes, and they kind of followed up on that this year. But like, as much as all 3 of them are like, you know, they are re-releases that are first from Thailand. Like, I feel like it's still kind of disappointing. Like, they could have expanded into other Tall Tales too. Like, I would have liked to see maybe some Rescue Squad Mater stuff or Mater the Greater stuff in there.
Agreed. Like, I feel like 2 years already of Tokyo Mater is enough. Next year better not be more Tokyo Mater.
I know I've said this before. I'm not a huge Piston Cup fan, you know, but like the fact that the only Cars 1 stuff that's notable is just Piston Cup cars.
Dude, literally everything from Cars Piston Cup themed, isn't it? Besides like the townies
and like the tuners, but that's it.
And like Edwin Cranks and Greta's 2-pack, but
like
now the sore thumb is that Super Chase McQueen. We were all waiting for them to do Radiator Springs McQueen, and now it's going through hell. Scalper is being called a Super Chase, and nowhere on this poster does it say it's a Super Chase like the previous years.
I love the release. I'm not gonna let the Scalper's stupidity and naivety like ruin the isolation of the release. It's a great release, and I'm just not gonna let like the Scalpers like ruin its reputation.
No, there's one thing I do want to point out, just I guess touch on is the GRC. Yes, they did not do all of them. It's very much aware they did not do all of them. I'm still holding out hope they're gonna do the rest next year. That's just me coping, okay?
Okay, but Aaron, like even if they did do that, they're gonna be 2025. It's not like you can count them for 2024. Like that's already done and dusted.
Because I wonder what the hell are they gonna pull out of their ass for next year? Because last year was Disney 100. The year before that was on the road, and the year before that was
they seem to always want to do some sort of small line of special releases in some way, shape. I'm curious what they're doing next year. Like 2026 is an easy bet. They'll probably do something for like the 20th anniversary because they did the racing red for the 15th year. I can guarantee that. But 2025, I don't know what route they'll go, honestly. And if I'm honest, I'm kind of scared what route they'll go. As much as there isn't series anymore, like if you have a good group of cars that kind of go together, and they've done that quite a bit and quite fairly. Like even 2022, even though that was a pretty bad year overall, like there was stuff that just went together. Like all the Cars 2 stuff was like, that early scene themed sort of thing. You had like last year there was a couple rusty cars in there. There was like there was the Lemons that also had Mark Wilson and Miles with Open Hood, like just from that one scene. This year, I'm sorry, like even the new releases, there's some releases that are just so random and out the blue. Like, why is there a Fusing Racing tractor and no other tractor?
Yeah.
Easy repaints. You could have easily done a new tractor. You did one new re-release. Mater was signed. Who does he belong to? He's the only one. I don't get it.
Yep.
And stuff like that also kind of irks me, how there's these one-off cars and they don't even go to anyone else. So if you're trying to collect them, if this is your first year collecting, like how are you going to explain a random tractor, But overall, 2024, I'm sorry for anyone out there, but this is probably a D tier for me.
It's a mid C. It's not a high C or a low C. I would say it's a mid C.
I give like 2024 like a low C, high D. And if I'm being completely honest, that's me being like somewhat generous.
Yeah, no higher than C for sure.
Yeah.
You know what? It's a middle ground. It's a middle ground C, if I'm gonna be honest. It's mid. That's the word I can describe it as.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Okay, then.
Like, respectfully, I don't understand how anyone sees 2024 on par with 2023.
Except a certain British person.
I mean, re-releases are overall garbage. There's a bunch of random stuff. The Tokyo Mater stuff reduced. The Cars 2 stuff reduced to the highest of heavens, or I guess the lowest of hells, you should say. Cars 3 also dropped to the depths of hell, hillbilly hell, if you want. Cars 1's okay, but again, Cars 1 has a bunch of Piston Cup to it, which I understand because everyone loves the Piston Cup. Is super popular. Like, I get it, but like a little diversity, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, hey, there's like some cars we haven't gotten from Thailand yet from Piston Cup. They could have finally done.
Yeah, and they are still missing 3 of the Cars 1 racers, like besides Dale and Apple. The fact that they did so many this year and not one of them is a new Thailand variant when you have 3 more to go, like you're so close. The finish line is right there.
Still no headset McQueen either.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's not forget that they teased us last year. Like Professor Z was a mini racer. Why would McQueen with headset was a mini racer. If anything, like now that I see 2024, those 2 releases, they kind of felt like middle fingers. I'm not gonna lie. They
better be in 20. I don't know what 2025's saving grace is gonna be, but if they put in Professor Z, McQueen with headset, the other 4 GRC racers missing, and God knows what other on-the-road variants are going to want to do, because I bet you actually are going to want to do more next year, no doubt. It's going to be like Mad Scientist Mater and like maybe some other random McQueen, but...
I mean, if they did some on-the-road cars next year, I won't mind, but like...
No, okay, what I will mind...
And the clowns, though. No more fucking clowns.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Listen.
Except for one. There's like a certain one
I don't...
No one buys them.
No, okay, here's the good thing. After Rodent Marker, you know that Van Campbell that's, I think, in K or whatever? Maybe it's in J, I don't know. But that's the only other clown car for the year, and we're done. So...
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's...
Good riddance.
Here's something
they only did 2 new clowns this year, so...
Yeah, here's the funny part is... Okay, there's actually one benefit I can actually say about 2024. And it's the fact that, like, minus the yellow blob, none of the peg warmers from last year are really here. Like, Nile Speedcone's not here. Kay and May are in a 2-pack, but they're not in singles.
I mean, Mallory is still here.
Well, the thing is, they somehow managed to still put these peg worms in any way, shape, or form, because you have Nile and Gearson in a 2-pack. You have that new stupid...
let's not forget the Salt Fever 5-pack at Walmart.
I was about to say that. We have them all featured in a 5-pack, and then... You know, it's just little stuff like that where I'm like, okay, maybe they're just trying to get rid of the stock. But for next year, please no more of these stupid ghost cars and these stupid clown cars.
Well, the Nile...
No, okay, listen, I can't... I'm honestly very nervous with 2025. I'm not even going to lie. For a multitude of reasons. Number one, this isn't to do with the diecast, but this is the 3rd year in a row we've had the same packaging. I'm not... Like, if you want to count the white to the red behind the blister bullshit, like, go ahead, but I'd like some new refreshing packaging, but that's not like to do with the releases. With the releases, I do not want a third year running of on-the-road releases and nothing to back it up. That's unacceptable at that point. I'm sorry. That's
because the only saving grace for this year is that Taco meant crew chief.
like what can you even do from on the road after this year that isn't like background characters that appear for 3 seconds at best?
Yeah, I can think of a couple, but like the
like get them out of your
3 or
system
4.
next year and that's it. End it there. Like the BMW that hangs out with Bella Cadaver, do her. But other than that, get it out of your system, and by 2026 they better be gone. Like I don't want them here anymore.
Especially this year as well. It's a really telling tale to like where the general audience is. Like these on the road cars, like they're very unique. I will give them that. They're unique. You know, you got ghosts and clowns and blah blah blah. Road rumblers, like they're cool. I think they're cool. My issue is that Mattel needs to wake up and realize that on the road focus is not flying anymore. It's just not. You can so clearly tell on the pegs that it's just dying down. What people really want, especially like the collectors, they would love if you went back and put diversity and did stuff from the movies again.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, 100%.
I will say this,
especially when you look at people on Facebook and stuff, people what are looking for, especially I'm going to speak for the demographic of kids and parents now. What they want is racers, main characters, and just unique background characters that are prominent and memorable, like reporters, a crew chief, hitties, etc., etc. And deluxes as well. They should bring that back. I don't know why they killed it off. With just a few words, tell me your favorite packaging and your least favorite packaging.
Okay, I'm super nostalgic for this probably, but my favorite packaging of all time is still the Supercharged.
World Cars.
I'm
gonna go with Supercharged and 2021. Okay, what is the least, the worst packaging altogether?
Well,
now?
I mean, okay. The red, like, 2022 one, specifically the one with the gray box.
Yeah, 2022.
2022, hands down, the worst. Absolutely.
Like, not even, like, just the packaging design. I know we're used to, like, the streamlined blisters now, but that was kind of weird. I'm not a big fan of like, the name tag just being printed on. I mean, I've gotten used to it now, but...
Can I say one more least favorite package design, just because I feel like we all agreed on the worst one.
Oh, I see where this is going. How could we forget? Daredevil Garage. So, people in the comments, it is your turn now. Let us know in the comments your favorite diecast year ever and why, and your least favorite and why. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Piston Cup Productions, Danica Blue, and World of Cars Entertainment signing out, and we will see you guys next time.